My mom has convinced my wife that I'm going to cheat on her while she's pregnant, because my dad did this to my mom, but now I've discovered I'm not even my father's son. Long story short, my father cheated on my mother with my stepmother. My wife, in our 7-year relationship, 4 dating, 3 married, has never met my father, stepmother, half-siblings, step-uncles, or my step-grandfather. My mother convinced my wife she didn't want any of them at the wedding or to have any holidays with them for the entirety of our relationship. My wife was cheated on in the past but moved past that, or so I thought. Well, my wife and I recently found out we're having our first child, but my wife is not excited or happy at all because my mother told her that my father cheated on my mother once she got pregnant. Yes, accurate, but it was before either of my parents knew my mother was pregnant with me. My wife is convinced that I'll cheat on her because she's pregnant. Very unlikely, as she's the most amazing woman I've met, and no one can hold a candle to her in looks. My mother just says I'm my father's son, which is really pissing me off. But because my wife hasn't met my father, she says that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. She does trust me, she says she trusts me, but she cries every time my phone goes off. My stepmother, who I call Mama, says to not vilify my mother and to be as supportive a husband to my wife as I can be. She even bought me some stuff to pamper my wife with because she deserves to be loved and pampered like the beautiful woman she is, and because pregnancy is tough on women's bodies. I trusted the woman who was pregnant 3 times, once with twins. So, besides the obvious, how can I get my wife to calm down and enjoy her pregnancy? Or convince her that I will not cheat on her? I love my wife, she makes me whole, and there will never be anyone but her. Any advice would help. Edit. To add, my father and stepmother owned up to what they did to me years ago. They always apologize to my mother whenever they see her because she constantly brings it up. I'm almost 30, but my mother will not stop making jabs at my father about my stepmother. I'll see what I can do about that. Relevant comment. Get couples therapy immediately. I can certainly understand why she has this insecurity now, and your mom is really being awful in this situation. But you can and should reassure her as much as you can, and understand that her hormones are going to be running wild. But try to get someone in the middle where you can all discuss all of this, and she should consider doing it on her own as well. What your father did isn't a prediction of what you'll do. But talking through it all is the only thing that's going to help. Good luck. Edit 2, message taken. I'll separate my wife and mother, currently look for therapists, and break out a couple of face masks so my wife will be in a good mood when I talk to her. Maybe I'll give her a massage. But I need to talk to her and cut contact with my mom. Update 1. Okay, thank you to everyone who responded to my post. My wife and I are grateful, and hopefully my head is firmly out of my ass. Firstly, my wife has joined an online book club with a lovely group of women who I have met. She's made friends, she's enjoying their book, and the majority of them are moms, so they have plenty to talk about. With permission from my boss, I changed my work hours so we could spend more time together, and we've been talking a lot. She is much happier, and she's been talking to a therapist and me about her insecurities. It's a work in progress, but that is life, and our baby is developing very well due to reduced maternal stress. Secondly, I now call my stepmother by her first name. I don't call her Mama anymore. She wasn't upset at all. My wife has met my grandfather, SM's dad, and my uncles, SM's brothers. They got along really well, especially since I got a pie to the face and they all laughed at me. Fair. I'm under the impression it was my grandfather's idea, but as long as she is happy, I'm happy. Her laughter is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. My mother was told therapy or no contact. She said she wasn't going because there wasn't a goddamn thing wrong with her. Her husband and daughters, my awesome sisters, are going to keep trying. My mother and wife have been out of contact since, and my wife is a little upset, but because of this, she's made new friends that, when the world is better, she can meet in person, and they can dish on their husbands out of earshot. Kidding. Then someone in my DMs got into my head about the paternity of my half-siblings, whether they really are my fathers or not. So, I talked to my family about genealogy and learning about where our family came from. One of my uncles suggested we just make our own episode of Maury. My stepmother said it would be pretty boring, but whatever, if that's what we want to spend our money and time on. Yes, my family is a little weird. So all us kids took tests. My sisters didn't want me to be left out. I mean, I had the test as a baby, no true surprises. 4 out of 5 kids matched. The one that didn't? Me. The one kid my dad was sure about. Several tests later, they all agree. My dad isn't my biological father. Dad's upset, I'm upset. I haven't told my wife because I don't know how to really say it without sounding like a crazy person. And I still have emotions about the results myself. My twin half-siblings and I could be triplets. I don't understand. I'm a little lost here. I'm overwhelmed. If anyone has anything for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'd love to ask my mother about this fun revelation, but she's not getting anything from me until she goes to therapy. My stepfather and sisters wouldn't know anything about it. So, if anyone has advice, I'm open to hearing it. Update 2. I wasn't expecting to make a trilogy out of this, I was just expecting some advice to help me with my wife. But thank you to everyone who has been helpful. I shall continue my epic. Before I begin, my dad and I went through with a paternity test through a doctor, no change. And, well, I did a genealogy kit and made the results public so I could try to find my father that way. Sadly, nothing yet on that front. My wife has met my whole family, which is amazing, and she's talking about us renewing our vows so they could be there this time, baby and virus permitting. I do like the idea. My wife apologized to me for the hurtful things she said and the way she behaved, even offering to have them paternity test our baby with a promise for the most boring paternity result ever, i.e., the baby being mine. I trust my wife. We're a team, and I love her. There will never be another person for me. I will take her up on her offer, but it's not because I think it will expose something, and I've told her just that. My stepfather reportedly gave my mother my paternity results. He told me she screamed, "That cow." I believe that is a reference to my stepmother. She claims my stepmother tampered with the results of all the tests us kids took to make my mother look bad because, and I quote, "that skank couldn't close her legs for a cold breeze, she left everything that moves." Things were thrown, and a lot of other things were screamed about my dad and stepmother. She is in definitely no contact with me or my wife. Her daughter, my half-sister, has been removed and is living with my stepfather's parents until her paternity results come back. My other sister is my stepsister, she's safe. Oh, and Mama, my loving stepmother, has busted the evil stepmother myth for my darling wife. Their relationship is relatively new, but those two, plus my two sisters, Dad's girls, and my other two sisters, have teased starting their own book club while they wait for the baby to arrive. Or for the world to right itself, whichever comes first. So, I think I'm okay. It's not perfect, not a fairy tale, but maybe I'll update when my sister's results come in, or if I get a hit on my genes, or I can leave you all in suspense. I could stop using this account and bothering the poor people on this site. But when my boy is born, it will be hard not to tell you all about it. I don't know how to link my past posts as I'm on mobile, so I do apologize. But if anyone has any further advice to offer me, I will be thankful for anything. Update 3. Okay, so I wanted to start my final update with the happy news, but my mother caused more trouble than she's worth, and I am, well, furious. My wife was with my dad's family because my mother tried breaking into our house. When my mother found out my wife was staying there, she basically tried to do the same. When she broke into my house, I called the police, but they let her go with a warning, even after I tried to press charges. She's your mom, you don't want to do that to her. Mother busted in a living room window to be confronted by my stepmother. Mother then hit my stepmother over the head with my grandmother's urn. Dad called the cops, but not before my grandpa punched my mother. Mother and grandpa were arrested and taken to the station before I got there. Dad and one of my brothers went with my stepmother while my sisters consoled my wife until I arrived. I immediately took my wife to her mother's house and stayed there while my uncles freed Grandpa, who was having a grand old time since it reminded him of his military days, and he loved his military days. My stepmother is recovering, but given she's not that young anymore, it may take her some time to fully recover. Dad and I are pressing charges on my mother, every charge we can get, because I'm done. Anyway, I found my biological father's family, a wife and 2 sons. I have 2 half-brothers who were very surprised I existed. My father passed suddenly 3 years ago, so all I have is his wife and sons. And apparently, I look just like him. I'll never truly know his side of the story, but I know that he married his wife when I was 4 years old, and his wife has no idea who my mother is. They're very nice people who can't wait for all of us to meet in person. My little sister's paternity results haven't come back yet, that I know of, she's very busy these days. My wife has assured me that she and the baby are okay. I am just unbelievably angry at my mother right now. Note from the Tattletale, unfortunately it's been 4 years since the last update. We can hope the op is doing well, and fingers crossed one day we get an update.